Hi and welcome. I'm Dr. Frank Liberti, and this vodcast is being recorded and presented during social distancing at no cost as a courtesy. And I tell you, I'd like to get started right on the presentation. So here we go. Today I'm going to talk about how some of the problems of personal injury are limiting your income every month for all of you, regardless of where you're at. So all personal injury businesses can and should grow regardless of where you're at currently and regardless of what your income level is. There are going to be people watching this presentation today who have just joined our program, people who have been with us for over 2 years. There are going to be people who are integrated in multidisciplinary practices. And I'm going to present a capsule summary showing the various ways that all personal injury practitioners can expand their business right now. In fact, we've had a surge during COVID, and I'll explain that to you as we go. But I want to welcome the different array of doctors that are at different levels of business development. Welcome and thanks for being here. First, let's start out by giving you a statistic which is going to help you to understand how we can grow the business at any time for anyone, anywhere. The average chiropractor practices in a demographic market area. Draw a radius around your location and then lines out 3 miles, 5 miles, 8 miles, however far people are willing to drive to come to you. And when you hit 100,000 lives, that's a good demographic market area. And for the average chiropractor across the United States, you will have 2,500 people within your immediate demographic market area. These are people who would drive to you 3 times a week. The average chiropractor has 100,000 lives of which he can draw from within a DMA of his practice where people will drive. And there are 2,500 accident victims that are going to see a doctor and a lawyer in your market every month. So first thing I want all of you to understand is you have 2,500 accident victims who will be selecting a provider and an attorney every month in your demographic. So problem number one, we are all missing business that can be ours. In fact, if all you could increase your market share was 0.5%, that's 0.005%. If you could increase your market share by that small fraction, 0.005, or simply 0.5%, that range is between $30,000 and $70,000 a month. I'm here to show you not only how you're missing it, but how you can stop the loss and get that. Now, if you are an owner of an astute personal injury practice, or if you're an owner of an integrated multidiscipline practice, I want to provide this information to show you how you can increase your market share of those 2,500 available personal injury patients that are going to seek a doctor and a lawyer for auto-related injuries in your immediate community every month, but who don't come to you. So let's start with this perceptual map, which is a step-by-step guide to analyze value, competition, and opportunities. There is a thing called the positional map or perceptual map based on 4 factors: individuality, appeal, status, and quaintness. And you can actually conduct this drawing to put this map together to see where your position is on the map. So let's just talk about these 4 factors. First is appeal. That is the ability to attract attention by having a higher appeal or being of greater interest to lawyers. Fact number 1. Factor number 2 is quaintness. That's your unique value proposition. How clever are you? How cunning are you? Or how peculiar and how proprietary are your unique value propositions? Then there's individuality. And that's the quality or character of your unique value proposition that's going to distinguish you from others of the same kind, especially when heavily competitive. And finally, there's status, which is a relative social and professional standing you have in the community compared to others. Here's another way of looking at the map. Perceptual map, also called positional map, a visual representation of how consumers perceive you based on social appeal, acquaintance, status, and individuality. Now, it is very easy to move closer towards the center of the map, and you can do it without resources and without capital. So we're going to take a look at that right now. But let's start with this. Let's start with some bits on clinical. I teach whole person impairment ratings as a necessity because all insurance bodily injury claims are going to be based on 4 corners. One corner is the degree of whole person impairment. 25% value of the entire medical claim is based on the whole person impairment. So you must convert your diagnoses into a whole person impairment. Number one. Number two, all cases that are going to involve lost wages, compensation, payment for pain, suffering, or loss of function, which is all bodily injury claims, they're subject to litigation, to deposition, to court, to trial. And in that case, the AMA charges the physician. Now, it's in Chapter 1 and 2 of the AMA, which is called the Constitution, where the physician is charged with providing a whole person impairment rating. But you're also charged to list the appropriate chapter, table, page, or method or formula in the AMA guides that most accurately reflects the injured's impairment. So they want you to cite the AMA guide edition, chapter, table, page, formula, or method. And they want it in a table format. Now, table progression formatting has been around for a very long time, but many of you don't know about it. So you've got to get a table formulated. Now, we don't want you to have to do this on your own. So our Zeus medical record bodily injury system will automatically convert diagnoses to impairments, and it will automatically build this table showing the AMA guide, chapter, edition, table, page. And now you've got a whole person impairment rating, and it is in a table format. So now it's admissible, and you've just added a lot of value to the claim. Now, if you haven't been formatting, you have been losing up to 25% value of the claim. So you're not done after you treat and examine. You've got to get that impairment rating and get that table. Next is Article 51 of Insurance Law 5104. It says, a plaintiff in a personal injury action arising out of negligence in the use or operation of a motor vehicle must establish that she has incurred a basic economic loss exceeding $50,000, or establish that she has suffered serious injury threshold. So most states right now are serious injury threshold states. And what it means is that if somebody died, a survivor could sue. If you had a fracture, you could sue. If you had a loss of fetus, you could sue. If you were dismembered, you could sue. Or if you were significantly disfigured, you could sue. And then the only other thing that you had to have in order to sue would be a permanent, consequential, significant loss of use of a body part, a body organ, a system of a body, or a body function. In other words, serious injury threshold is defined as these factors in front of you. So what we're going to look for are permanent, consequential, significant losses of use of body functions. Now, let me just talk to you about the role of evidence-based practice. The definition in personal injury of evidence-based practice is integrating the best research evidence with clinical core competence and patient assessment to facilitate clinical medical decision-making. I'll elaborate. Just give me a moment. So using evidence-based practice will improve quality assessment standards and, of course, patient care. Now, evidence-based practice needs to be supported by strong research, which is referred to as CDSS, or Clinical Decision Support System, CDSS. If you have a clinical decision support system built into your software, it will improve outcomes, and it will show statements of undisputed facts, memorandum of points, declarations, and authorities. And evidence-based practice will reduce variation in standards of how medical parameters are met. So you want to eliminate the disputes, eliminate other people's opinions, and you want your evidence to preponderate. Because people want the best, whether you're a doctor or whether you're looking for a doctor or looking for a lawyer, People want the best. Now, best practice means, first of all, doing a whole person impairment rating, then converting it into a table format. It's also going to involve using a concierge injury triage questionnaire, which we're going to discuss today, and a 1191M bodily injury model exam, which we'll discuss today, certain diagnostics, rating specific disorders of the spine, which we'll discuss, determining functional losses, conducting whole person impairment rating, assigning DRE categories, and identifying the injury thresholds. Sometimes you have to do an outcome assessment. You need medical decision-making abilities, medical validation abilities, which we're going to talk about, so you can establish the preponderance, win the great weight of the evidence, overcome unfair claims, Settlement Practice Act. You must assess double-digit diagnoses in a bodily claim, not 2, 3, or 4, but more than 10. And you must assemble 24 sections in a bodily injury claim, and then you must identify decision points of a bodily injury claim. Now, this is going to be new to a lot of you, and some of you are just refreshing yourself, but this is what's going to set us apart from others. So being a provider who diagnoses overlooked serious injury thresholds will expand your personal injury practice. So if you Google serious injury threshold, you're going to get a page like this, and every item it talks about what is serious injury threshold. And it's no secret, plaintiff attorneys believe that there's nothing that can be done to prevent low balls unless the injured has a serious injury threshold. Now, they used to look at herniated disc at the threshold, but we realize now that's not a big valuation. And so now they're looking at mild traumatic brain injuries, which does count, but there are other threshold injuries that have much higher valuation. So these things get overlooked, and the warning is that these threshold injuries have been routinely excluded from medical discovery, damaging the injured and the claim, and we want to avoid it. Now, there are G forces that are sufficient enough to produce serious injury threshold. The research was conducted at 8.2 miles per hour because that's not enough to damage a vehicle, and they wanted to see what threshold injuries existed at 8.2 miles per hour when there was no property damage to the vehicle. And the first overlooked injury is AOMSI, alteration of motion segment integrity, which is brought about by a tear of the ligament, which is going to have structural and functional failure and cause spinal instability. Now, AOMSI is spinal instability, and basically what happens is one of the 7 ligaments will tear from the G-force, and the vertebrae will slip. It will translate. It will go through angular motion. It will ride over the vertebrae above and below because the ligament was torn and it cannot hold it in place. You can see here that as it slides back, it's going to compress the intervertebral foramen, compress the nerve, override the disc. So we should be looking for disc injuries. We should be looking for nerve injuries. We should be looking at that canal size, and we should be looking for the ligament tear producing AOMSI, alteration of motion segment integrity. This injury is overlooked almost half the time. So it's very important that we start investigating and looking for these injuries. This is a pretty good slide. It's a CAT scan in 3 dimensions. And there you can see when it strips away the soft tissue, you don't have to even think about how much the rotation has caused that vertebrae to subluxate or even dislocate. And that is a result of the torn ligament that can't hold that vertebrae in place, AOMSI. AOMSI is represented in the AMA guides by a 25% whole person impairment rating. All right, it's also rated the same as an amputation of a foot and the same as 2 spinal fusion of 2 spinal vertebrae. All right, let's look at the next injury called cervical chain ganglia. Right next to the vertebrae is a huge bundle of ganglia. Now, this PowerPoint presentation will not allow the animation, but this is an animation. It shows that vertebrae slipping back, and it shows it compressing the chain ganglia. So this shows how a vertebrae shifts out of position in an unstable spine as a result of a force of impact, called alteration of motion segment integrity. The subluxation or actual dislocation of the vertebrae is caused by torn ligaments that hold that vertebrae and spine in place. and it does tender a complete functional loss, causing loss of integrity of the spine. The sequela, however, results in other injuries. When G-forces are enough to cause this injury, you will have concussions in 99% of the people. You will have cervical chain ganglia injury. You'll have in almost the same amount of people. You'll have blood flow loss to the brain in about 30% of the people. You'll have muscle fatty infiltrate in almost all these cases. And then it's going to cause pain, and it's going to result in anxiety and stress and sleep disorders. A pathological condition will also have cranial symptoms, headaches, abnormal functions of the eyes and ears, psychological and behavioral disorders and implications. And one of the ways to tell if people have this, there are 9 clinical signs you can look at. Number 1. Number 2, you ask a questionnaire of approximately 72 questions, which is going to help to indicate if the patients are undergoing any of these threshold injuries. Much different than your standard DUD, LOE, and ADL questionnaires, which do not take into consideration all these threshold injuries. So you're going to look at the patients. You're going to have a much better questionnaire. And you can order what's called diagnostic radiographic mensuration analysis, and you can bill for it. It pays handsomely, but you'll be reimbursed to send images of the films to be read, because you can't see this with the naked eye. You're going to send it out. You'll bill your component. You make some money, but you'll establish the injury. And this injury has a set aside of $66,000, according to James Mathis, former superintendent at Allstate. He says the set aside case settlement reserve is $66,000 among all insurers, and this injury occurs 65% of the time and is overlooked just about as many times as it occurs. So we use exhibits, a legal or medical exhibit created containing authorities, declarations, case law, statements of undisputed fact, memorandum of points, references, drawings, illustrations, animation of human anatomy, graphic, medically accurate depictions of injuries sustained. These are commonly used by trial attorneys to maximize understanding of the injury, enhance settlement negotiations, and of course, increase the medical experts' effectiveness in testimony. So we provide exhibits for all of our doctors. And one of the exhibits will always contain statements of undisputed facts, memorandum of points, declarations, exhibits, and authorities. Part 1 of our exhibits will always be graphic in nature, using photographs, images, and illustrations. Part 2 will be animations. And then some lawyers prefer to have numbered exhibits. So we will have all the statements of undisputed facts, declarations, authorities, memorandum of points, references, all of it produced for you in a numbered format. But the good news is we are going to provide the exhibits containing the language for the attorney to include with his demand, so that he receives the payment that the injured is entitled to. So the exhibits are critical, and I want you to know these are the things that are going to help you be more valuable to the attorney. Now, all of our members are going to be accredited as a continuing legal education presenter and become a contributing author, because we talked about the positional map or the perceptual map, and we want to show you how to get closer to the center of the map and get that extra 0.5% business, because people want the best. So first we have to allow you to become better than you are. So you're going to look for the threshold injuries, and we're going to continue with the slide presentation to show you the rest of them. And then I'm going to introduce you to the concierge injury intake questionnaire, table formatting, the 24 sections of the claim. Let's just continue with the program. So we have 7 courses for you. You will be accredited as a continuing legal education presenter and author. And there are 7 courses and 7 books. You know, books are the new business card, and there's plenty of ghostwriters that write books for people. Well, we're going to work with you so you can contribute authorship. This is just a sample. The first book is the $66,000 neck injury. The second book is the complete guide to prevent and reverse adjuster and IME bullies from undervaluing injury claims. We call that the No Bully Zone book. Then the other one is personal injury, maximizing settlement value in a colossus environment. Eliminate disputes, denials, and discounts. And this, again, is a plaintiff attorney guide to prevent unfair settlements. The fourth book shows that turning your head during an accident could fracture your neck. Fracture your neck by turning your head, and I'm going to show you that injury on this presentation as well. So we want to establish your expert presence, get you closer to the center of the positional map and the perceptual analysis. And part of it is going to be to get you CLE accredited. Another part is going to be to get you to become a contributing author in a book. Some of these books are known as the expert author effect. Talks about what happens when you become a medical legal expert author and get CLE accredited to deliver presentation before your attorneys. Let's get back to some of these threshold injuries. The next is called how auto accidents cause blood flow loss to the brain. So here you can see how the vessels pass through foramen, and here we're looking at the cervical spine. And this is an image to show you that when the head undergoes flexion and rotation, it's going to crimp either the vertebral artery or the basilar arteries and cause blood flow loss to the brain, which is a permanent condition. On the left, you see clear blood flowing through artery. On the right, you see that it's been pinched. We simply had the person turn their neck during the radiograph, and that shows the area of crimping, producing blood flow loss. So you want to look for that. This is an image of what happens when muscles are stretched, because if you have AOMSI, you're also going to have cervical chain ganglia. You have to stretch the ligament, which stretches the tendon, which stretches the muscle. And whenever muscle is stretched, the body fills it in with fatty substance. You can palpate that. You can see it on MRI showing grade 0, 1, and 2. And muscle fatty infiltrate shows the morphological damage in the muscles. It's very valuable to be able to diagnose that. We have to talk about facet syndromes because there's going to be overexertion and tearing of the muscles and stretching of the muscle. They will not, and the ligaments and the tendons, they will not return to normal physiologic place. And if you add rotation, oblique and sideways bending, then you have a strain on the facet that increases by 34 to 96% more. And it is exactly when you are turning your head that you're going to fracture the upward lateral projections. It's a derangement fracture, and it's called uncinate process fracture. Now, there are upward projections that come off the vertebrae. Your head and neck can flex and extend through 140 degrees without any injury, but you can't go lateral more than 35 degrees without damage, and the damage comes to the upward lateral projections. There you can see by the red arrows that there's no tip to the uncinate process. I'll show you another vertebrae. Look at the one that says normal height. You can see normal tip. If you go on the left, you can't see the normal tip. That's diminished height. That's uncinate process because the forces were oblique or from the side, or the head was turned, rotation occurred, and the pressure got extended to that articular pillar, uncinate process, and it couldn't handle it, and it just fractures. It's a derangement fracture, like a compression fracture. It takes 2 months to show. Most doctors don't look for it, so you have to ask, was the collision impact from the side? Was the head turned? Did the impact collision come from an oblique angle? Did the car get turned or spun? Were you looking into the inside rearview mirror or the outside rearview mirror at the time of impact? You have to be an investigator and start asking, could there have been oblique, lateral, or rotational forces? And lastly, it takes 2 months for this to show. And in order to see it, you need a special x-ray. You have to wait 2 months. Now, the patient is standing up, and you're going to tilt the tube up 35 degrees, move it closer to the patient by 10.5 inches, and aim it at the pharynx. So you're going to have to drop it down to their knees. When you're in our program, you get the prescription pads that you can send out to the radiologist, or if you take it yourself, this is a capsule summary, but that's an injury. Almost every side lash is going to have this type of injury, and they get missed and overlooked. It's worth a lot of valuation. Now, traffic accidents have become the leading cause of post-traumatic stress syndrome. So you have to look to see if your patients are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder. There's 4 or 5 different types and diagnostic codes to order, and then accompanying adult driving anxiety, but other anxieties for repair shop bills, insurance rate hikes, litigation, going to the doctors, probable loss of function that affects them at work or interpersonally or socially. And so there's a lot of anxiety that goes with it. Well, you can actually rate the anxiety, class 1 or class 2, according to AMA guides, and go from 14% to 29% impairment. Then we want to look at sleep disorders. What happens is sleep keeps you up from pain or neurologic or anxiety or worry, and the lack of sleep spills into the next day, and it affects performance, your interest in doing things, maybe even your appetite. You could be short-tempered, you don't make decisions properly, you're not operating at the same speed or frequency of performance. A whole host and litany of disorders occur because you're not sleeping because of worry or anxiety or pain, and it becomes its own impairment. And again, we use only AMA guides, chapter 13, table 13, 14 on page 817 and 317 for sleep disorders. And so we teach you all about these anxiety, stress, and sleep disorders. So we're not fighting from victory. I mean, we are fighting from victory because the job's been done. And it's not that somebody's better, but, there are people that are willing to do more than others, and they're the ones that are going to get the lion's share. Now, I showed you that first injury, AOMSI, causes that vertebrae to push back and compress the nerve and override the disc. Well, when it does that, it's also going to cause foraminal encroachment or stenosis. So you want to make sure you measure for that. We show you how to place line. The brown line is the posterior vertebral border. The green line, spinal laminar junction, just 2 lines, and then you measure between them. And then if they are, and then it changes the prognosis. It adds value to the claim, but you don't measure the canal size, you're not going to see it. Now, mild traumatic brain injuries is a big deal today. There are 4 types of concussion. There are somatic physical concussions with symptoms on the left, cognitive concussions with symptoms on the right, sleep and behavioral symptoms and a concussion from sleep behavioral disorder, and concussions that produce psychological emotional symptoms. 4 types, plus cerebral contusion, plus diffuse axonal injury that you have to know about. So that's part of our training, because we want you to be able to thoroughly diagnose and represent and present the course and the book to the attorneys. Now, next thing I want you to familiarize yourself with, again, is that there are 17 sections of a bodily injury claim for the doctor, and then the lawyer has the administrative, legal, and economic section. So most of the sections are medical. I don't think without Zeus, you're going to have more than 8 sections filled out. Number 1 is whole person impairment rating. Number 2 are the trauma lines or injury severity thresholds. 3 is the duty under duress, and 4 is the loss of enjoyment. And then every one of these other sections has to be evaluated, diagnosed, put in your records, and submitted for value. So there's 24 whole medical sections to a claim. We start with our software called Zeus, which is an injury model. It is based on the injury model. Your softwares are based on Medicare Center for Medicare Service Guides and are not going to interface. So we put together Zeus to gain a competitive edge for you and let Zeus comprise its analytics. This is a feature in the American Chiropractic on our article, What's Hot, and they featured Zeus. So this is a book here on the left. It says Making Medical Decisions, an approach to the clinician decision-making. And I want you to know that one of the representatives from Colossus said, Colossus makes 600 medical decisions. Well, Zeus is built by us. It's the first and only computer program with computer-aided decision-making specific for personal injury. It's programmed to automatically search, tag, and extract 600 fields of data to represent all 24 sections of a bodily injury claim that you're not going to get with a standard EHR based on Center for Medicare Service Guides. And we're the only one that makes medical decisions. It'll make 600 medical decisions. So Zeus becomes your interoperable personal injury clinical workflow system. It'll put your findings in an evidence-based practice format. It'll run a clinical decision support system. It'll run computer-aided decision-making. It will assign the diagnoses, convert them into impairment, produce the table, show which edition, guide, chapter, table, formula we're using the AMA guide to arrive at the impairment. It will just continue to build. You just click that button called computer-aided decision-making after the patient enters their symptoms and complaints, and after you enter your exam findings, you click that button, And this thing will go to work, print out pages of decisions it made for you, so you don't have to make these decisions. You don't have to construct the impairment rating or the table. You don't have to put injuries into a diagnostic-related estimate category or a diagnostic-based injury threshold category. You don't have to rate specific disorders of the spine, conduct a spine impairment summary, regional or whole impairment. The software does all of it. Learn to embrace this software. The impact of computer-aided decision-making in healthcare is huge. It's real-time intelligence at the point of exam. What you are missing without medical legal data analysis of computer-aided decision and clinical decision support system could make the difference in that 0.5% additional new patients coming to you. So we use this to do whole person impairment rating, specific disorders of the spine, spine impairment summary, DRE categories, DBI categories, injury types, injury thresholds, and table formatting. Let the software work for you. Now, here's what's important. If either the doctor or the lawyer have 24 categories of decision points that are in the records and the demand, the windows of the insurer software don't open, you will lose the compensation for the decision points and payment associated with the decision points, injuries, and factors. So missing sections is going to mean missing settlement value. So by enhancing claim value, you have a unique value proposition to attract attorneys to you because you're going to get them more money. Well, let's just keep going here. Be a medical examiner for the living injured. It all starts with a concierge triage intake history questionnaire. We use an inventory, and we're going to question people to see whether they have loss of blood flow to the brain, cervical chain ganglia, concussion, cerebral contusion, mild traumatic brain injury, stress disorders, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, AOMSI, unintended process fracture. We've got hundreds and hundreds of questionnaires that are designed to surface threshold injuries. So we email it to the patient, explain to them why we're asking all these questions, and then we let them go to town and fill it out, click a button, and submit it back to us, all online. So our inventories will include post-traumatic concussion questionnaire, sleep questionnaire, PHQ-9 questionnaire, depression questionnaire, fear and anxiety questionnaire, fear and avoidance, cervical chain ganglia, blood flow loss. We stack our intake questionnaire so that it will surface every threshold injury. Now, we talked about decision points, and I want you to know here they are. 14,000 value drivers, 27,000 severity drivers, 26,000 standard multipliers, and then 33 liability drivers, 15 additional increased multipliers. That's 67,800 decision points, many of us never even heard of. And you have 58 case maximizers, prolong modifiers, injury severity type. So we teach you what these things are, but we also want to teach attorneys because the business of PI includes additional increased multipliers, injury severity thresholds, standard multiplier, prolong modifiers, injury value drivers, case maximizers, decision points, trauma line, case maximizers. Do you know what they are? Does the attorney know what they are? So we create an electronic bulletin to educate attorneys, and we submit it to them every single week. A new edition every week sent right to their inbox, and they opt in. This one says 58 case maximizer factors that can prevent unfair personal injury settlements. And it says, would it excite you to consistently maximize settlement value in a Colossus environment? Well, probably so. Well, these 58 factors might just keep you from receiving a lowball settlement. They're going to want to read its very vital targeted information. We send it to them in their email, on their computer, on their cell phone, however they want it. They ask for it, they opt in. Now, the following week, we get the analytics. This one shows one of our doctors who had a 25% open rate. Now, you notice in the top yellow, it says 124 recipients. That's because we want you to build, we'll do it for you. We will build you a database of 100 attorneys in your immediate area who are going to be potential future referral sources, 100 new attorneys that you don't already have. We've had people come into this program that have been doing $3 and $4 million a year that knew all sorts of attorneys. We still get them 100 new attorneys because we want you to get new blood, want you to enhance existing relationships, create new ones. This doctor happened to have a 25% open rate, so now we have a list of all the attorneys who opened it. And the next thing we do is we then call those attorneys. You'll see here, this was just 2 weeks ago or last week. In green are appointments and referrals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 referrals for that doctor in just 1 week. So we are reaching out, creating a database of attorneys for you in your area, emailing them and educating them, receiving the analytics showing who opened, calling and scheduling appointments. That's a heck of a way to get you in front of attorneys one-on-one. Now, you're also a CLE presenter, and you co-authored a book, contributed authorship to a book. So when you make your presentation, you're educating them with CLE credits. No one is CLE credited. You'd be the only one in the community. Now, this is the secret the insurance companies have. It's called the decision point to dollar translation percentage multiplier formula, where they use the decision points in that formula to derive at value. The decision point to dollar translation percentage multiplier formula, where decision points convert to $1. So one of our lawyers, Phil Sims, says, I not only discovered that decision point, Phil Beaton says, I not only discovered decision points and put added value in a claim, but they were missing in my demand. And once I included them, I enhanced claim value, eliminated litigation obstacles that I wasn't previously able to do. He goes on to say, lowball cases 25 to 7,500 now worth 28 to 45,000, but I've even gotten much higher than that. And I now refer to a chiropractor using this system over the MD that I used to use. That's because you're repositioned. This is an actual photograph of this girl, paralegal for the attorney. She said, I assemble most of the demands for this law firm. And just using the basic sample template of the Zeus demand, we tried it on several cases, and we received the full policy limits on all of those cases. So you've got to get your lawyers to use the Zeus software that we give them for free, because it assembles the claim to exchange data, interface, and input value. And it'll save them 50% of the time. So this paralegal says, using the Zeus demand tool, I saved over half the legal time and spend to produce the demand. I know Mr. Blank is excited and intends to send a majority of his cases to the doctor. This lawyer said, I decided to use Zeus demand I was given by one of your doctors on a trial basis. I was able to produce new demands using the new information to open a value driver window, and I was able to get policy limits on all 5 test cases. I'm very excited to add this new information. This girl's going to refer everything to that doctor. Here's another one said, the lawyer, she balked at using this because she didn't want to do something different or new. I kept getting knocked around by the adjuster, so finally I used it. I sent it in. I got paid the full policy coverage limit. And we have testimonies like this that just go on and on and on. Now, if you are a personal injury practitioner, you want to go to the next level, you're doing a 99204 exam. Medicare defines it in its Medicare Compliance Manual for 2020 as an IPPE, Initial Preventive Physical Exam / Welcome to Medicare Preventive Visit. You are doing a 99204, you're doing a Medicare exam, an Initial Preventive Physical Exam, when you should be doing a 1191M, impairment rating by attending physician, standard 1 to 3 body parts. And look at that fee. At the time it was $520, I believe it's $600 now. So when you do the injury model and you use Zeus, you're going to get an impairment rating by attending physician, standard 1 to 3 body areas performed at discharge. You're going to do the diagnostic related estimate categories, diagnostic based injury severity threshold, spine impairment summary, specific disorders of the spine, and table formatting. None of that's available when you do a 99204 exam. There's a copy of the exam form. You need to either get it and use it or load your findings into Zeus. Now, Steve Dunbar said, for fun on Saturday, I watched the 1191M exam video course, and you did a perfect job. I totally got every detail. Keep up the great work. Now I have another 3 more attorneys sending me cases, and the course reinforced how to implement each step in the exam. I totally enjoy meeting attorneys and adding them to my weekly e-bulletin and performing the 1191M exam on these clients. They are totally amazed and impressed at the difference in what I do over others. Take care. Now, lastly, you want to be the best, you might as well eliminate other people's opinions like the adjuster, AME, QME, or IME. So the courts have spoken. They said the IMV, independent medical validation, wins the greater weight challenges. Here it says in the box on the bottom, If the process of please take notice, the process of independent medical validation as a medical determination containing memorandum of points, statements of undisputed facts, declarations, exhibits, and authorities to present evidence-based burdens of proof in admissible format to establish the preponderance, eliminate varying medical opinions, and show the greater weight of the evidence. One of the purposes of doing this is to produce enough evidence-based data by one side to create a belief its version is more true than the other side. If this evidence does come under dispute, then they have to show that the finding is against the great weight and it's against the preponderance of the evidence, and it is clearly wrong and manifestly unjust. So this, if you have your files sent out by a third-party independent validator and it comes back validated, you have the preponderance of evidence. You win the greater weight. No one can challenge you. These two attorneys said, the doctor said, I wanted to pass on more great news. Attorney Johnson called after just settling our case for $75,000. I asked him if he was pleased with everything and if his expectations were met and if there was anything else we can do to improve things. He said he was ecstatic. He said it never would have settled for $75K had they not found the A1MSI injury and provided the impairment table and the MMV. He was very, very happy. He told me he plans to send every one of his clients to me, and he just sent me another one. Thank you, Dr. Liberti. This is amazing. Here's another letter that says, thank you for your help. The IMV definitely made a difference in us being able to settle for the policy limits of the at-fault party insurance carrier. We look forward to working with you again in the future. We are pulling in more attorneys who are referring more and more as a result of this program. That's an invoice showing you that this 1191M exam actually pays between $2,100 and $2,700 for an hour's worth of work. So you can go to any attorney and let them know that if they've got a lowball case, you can double it. And if you don't, they don't ever have to talk to you again, and they don't have to pay you a penny, because that's what we're doing. That's the summary. So I want you to get with the groove and understand it. Now, Google said with robocars coming in, we're going to almost double the amount of accidents by 2025. So look, you're going to double the amount of accidents, and it's going to be all from robocars. I did tell you for every 100,000 lives in your DMA, 2,500 people are going to come to you. But what I didn't tell you is that 1,625 of them are going to have a threshold injury, and it's going to be overlooked. I want you to have that business. Now, insurance payouts are no longer based on pain and suffering. They're based on loss of function on something called the Karnofsky score, where Dr. Karnofsky created a scale that represents patient's performance status and loss of function on a 0 to 100 scale. 0 is death, while 100 is normal function. So we built the Karnofsky scoring system into our software to exceed DUD, LOE, and ADL, and now measure loss of function. They don't pay on pain and suffering anymore. They pay on loss of function. So we built in International Classification of Functioning Disability and Health Guidelines, and our software will make degree of reasonable medical probability for every injury, every diagnosis, whether or not there's future care required. It'll assign every injury as either static or stable. It'll give every diagnosis an MMI, every diagnosis a different prognosis. Nothing's the same. A sprained wrist, a bruised shoulder, a herniated disc, and an AOMI all have different MMIs, different prognoses. And some are static and some are stable. Some will need a degree of reasonable medical probability for future care. Zeus will also do apportionment when there are pre-existing conditions, whether dormant or aggravated, or whether there are prior conditions or a prior accident. So you're going to become even better by using this system if you embrace it. Now, what you need to do is make yourself stand out from the competition, how to be unique, and how to have something others don't have. And that's what we bring to you. INC Magazine, Inc. Magazine said there are two powerful words to supercharge your business and your life. This year, those two words can make all the difference. Even science says that the two words are market position. So I showed you the positional map. We want you to get in the center of it. You do that by getting the word out. So business to business marketing, we've identified what attorneys need and want. That'll get you rich. But if you want to be wealthy, you need to know the problems that they have, fix the problems, and then you'll be wealthy. So we surveyed lawyers, and we asked them why they chose to meet with our medical legal experts, why they chose to refer. And they said, your doctors demonstrate a stronger knowledge of overall personal injury business landscape, showing our needs with a stronger ability for the solution to our problems. We can get any lawyer anywhere to shift brands and refer to us. Now, it's not just selling to their perception of what they need, because they need things they don't even know they need. They need things that you've got that others don't have. And once you meet their objectives and goals, then they're going to want to do business with you. So when you sell to an attorney, you advocate what you can do that is so strong that others don't have it, and that if they don't use you, they'll lose. You sell to their need, communicate their value, help them find a solution to a problem. It's not that difficult. The first thing it has is you have to change the awareness they have of you. You have to change their conception, called their conceptual analysis, and you've got to reposition yourself and get closer and closer and closer into the center of the perceptual map, of the positional map. It starts first with getting an awareness. Then they have to have new considerations for your new skills, your new core competency, the fact that you can do an IMV to prevent anybody from disputing. You can find the threshold injuries. You can assign the impairment. You can create the table. You've got what they need, and then you're going to send them the Zeus template, making it even that much easier for them to actually exchange the data so they get more value. So first they become aware of you, then they change your consideration, then they convert to use you. And in that loyalty phase, they're going to refer to you, including their friends and family. Then they reach out and become advocates, tell others in the firms and others in town, and you now become, all you're looking for is 0.5% increase to make $30,000 to $70,000 a month. Now, this is a true fact. June 2020, 6,200 attorneys in our network and growing. Those 6,200 attorneys are referring to our members. Now, we want to set you up with a meet and greet. So we're going to send out the electronic bulletin like I showed you, get the analytics, find out who opened, call them on the phone, set up meet and greet. Now we're doing screen shares during COVID, and every meet and greet results in 3 referrals. Again, there's the list showing in green all the success that we had with that doctor in setting up 9, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in 1 week. Now, you may only want to meet 2 a week. You may want to meet a group. Now, if you're in our program, I'm going to get you in front of the county bar, and I'm going to get you in front of the Young Lawyers Division, so you'll have groups. So you need a positional statement. So we kind of like created one, and we have a beautiful jingle, including a television commercial for those that want to use it. But it says, look, if you've been in a wreck, you need to know the facts. This is information you could use or claim value you could lose. So who do you call? Who do you trust when your money's at stake? You could risk your claim value and make a big mistake. It's what you don't know that can hurt you. And then we refer them to our website at accidentworks.com. We tell them to look at the 9 questions to ask before they pick a doctor or lawyer. Now, you need to embrace your opportunity to position yourself in the center of the map and do a couple of presentations. We will get you out there. We'll get you to speak one-on-one, and I can get you from a novice to a renowned speaker, get you in front of this. When COVID's over, we're looking at September and October to put our members in front of the Young Lawyers Division and the county bar. Instead of one-on-ones, we're going to do large groups, and we're ready to and prepared now to make that happen. So here's when it says, after helping and impressing Nick Maley, attorney at Killian Davis, I gave the 1-hour CLE to a second lawyer, Joe, at Killian and Davis less than 2 weeks ago. The second lawyer, Joe, invited several paralegals to my presentation. Well, Nick sent me 5 patients. Joe sent me 3 patients in the 2 weeks since the presentation. Why? Because we can fix their problems. Now, you either do, when you do something that everyone else does, is you either do what everyone else is doing and you do it better, or do what no one else is doing and don't invite comparison. From what I've explained to you tonight, you're not doing all these things and other doctors aren't doing all these things. So I'm just going to encourage you to stay in touch with me. I do these webinars for my members. They're closed every week. And then we do vodcasts for others. And we are interested in reaching out to the more astute chiropractors, the more experienced, the ones that have been in business the longer, owners of their practice, especially integrated and multidisciplinary practices, because they are having tremendous gains by adopting some of these business development tools. There's my name, number, and email if you want to write it down. I am Dr. Frank Liberti. I can be reached at 727-520-3961. And my email address is f_liberti@msn.com. Now, we've decided to hold these vodcasts because I know it's difficult for people to travel during COVID-19, but we want to get this information out. There are, I believe, more than 14 in the series, but we also host weekend seminars. We don't do a lot of them now, but we do from mid part of the country. We're in Atlanta, and we're going to be in Atlanta this end of July. And then for the West Coast, we're in Las Vegas. We'll be there at the end of September. And you can go to accidentworks.com, click on physician, and click on seminar and see where we're at to register. You're welcome to attend. If you're a member, you get an exclusive invitation to our weekly webinars. If you're somebody who's interested, you can view our vodcasts. And we're doing this to help. Listen, I know we're the best at treating, but we're chiropractors. We got to go where there's no path and create a trail of our own. Everybody has a stigma, from the attorney to the jurors. You know what? None of it makes a difference. We're doing a better job putting these cases together, using this system, and that's going to get us a tremendous amount of referrals. We should be able to get at least 1% increase in our market, which literally should equate to $30,000 to $70,000. Now, we start off slow, one attorney at a time. Now in the spring, now in the fall, we think COVID's going to be reduced. We're going to go out in front of entire groups, county bars, young lawyers divisions. With our CLE accreditation and our contributing authorship book, we will move into the center of the positional map. But you got to be with the program, get with the plan, stick with the program, and that's what this is about. So those of you interested in meeting me, let's see if I can't put you back up over here. Let's see if we'll go back. There you go. Feel free to contact me. Hey, thanks a lot for your time. You can take people's time or you can take their money. But when you take their time, you take a part of their lives. And so I want to thank you for sharing a part of your life with me and for giving me the time to spend with you. Now, if you are one of our clients, that's a capsule summary for you to show you where you need to be. And if now that you know where you're at, get up to the next stage and just continue to grow it. Because in the fall, we are going to be ready to put you in front of the groups. And then instead of one lawyer referring at a time, you'll have 30 referring at a time. That is seriously going to change everything. This is the time to prepare. And for those of you who are new and you want to get into the program, you can catch me in Atlanta in July, catch me in Vegas in August, or give me a shout. All right, I'm Dr. Liberti. Thank you very much for being here. I salute you because you're solution-oriented. And I will look to see you on another vodcast and ultimately at a seminar weekend. Thanks for watching. Bye now.